Hello everyone, I hope you're going well. Today we will actually talk about the London system and how to handle this opening with the white pieces and with the black pieces. But before the game and my video analysis start, you can of course have a preview on my book, How to Actually Create a Training Program or Training Plan. You can also actually have a preview. You can just contact me per email. And now let's just the game start. So I always say start with knight f3 because if c5, then actually we will see how to handle this type of positions in the game. But basically, it's okay. If you start with d4 and c5, it's not really the same because it's not really the same. We will actually see. So knight f3, knight f6, d4, c5, and now c4. So that is actually pretty interesting because okay, now of course black has to take. Otherwise, you would just play knight c3 and bishop f4, and then you will have a pretty okay position. So takes d4. Now knight takes d4, and you're not really playing a London system anymore, but you're still getting a pretty easy position to handle. If e6, for example, you can go knight c3, then bishop e7. You can even play bishop f4 or e3 like in the game. And okay, you have a pretty okay position. E3, the plan would be to go b3, bishop b2, at some point queen c2 and long castles. So keep that in mind. It's a very important line and variation in your open repertoire. Then, you can go for the classical kingside attack. So that is the first thing. If black, for example, goes d6, then okay, you can go knight c3 or e3 and basically play the same plan. Something like that, castles, or something like that, and long castles. I would still recommend you e3 bishop e2 castles, and then later on only play b3 bishop b2. That is a very important line because in the London system you will not always get the classical London setups and structures. But okay, b6 was played in this game. e3, bishop b7, knight c3, d6, and now bishop e2. Very interesting line played by Gukesh. Gukesh is basically sacrificing the pawn on g2, but for a lot of counterplay. Bishop g2, and now not rook g1, which is a little bit passive, but bishop f3. And bishop f3 is just a very, very, very interesting move. So first point is, if you take the rook, I would actually just take back. And after taking here, you have to go 97. You can actually take, we take back, but then black is just up a pawn and we didn't really get anything. So if you take 97, we actually want to play, on the, how is it called again? The compensations. So basically queen a4, knight c6, and it's a very tough game to handle for black on the light squares, but it's completely playable for both sides. So more or less equal. So that is the first point. Actually, I think queen a4 is the best move because now if you go for queen d7, I can still take, and then if you take here, you can't save the rook. So queen a4 or taking on h1, everything is possible, but the position is completely playable. Now, taking on f3 was the move, queen takes, and now, even though white is down a pawn, we do have a lot of pressure everywhere on the light squares, on the dark squares, in the center, and there is a lot of compensation for that pawn. So that is a very important plan to keep in mind. Knight d7 and now knight c6. Eventually, if you're playing queen c7, we can play the move knight b5, and at some point, the position might actually collapse. Okay, probably not knight b5, probably knight e7 first is more reasonable. We are attacking the rook, so you cannot take back, otherwise, you're down in exchange. So you have to move the rook. And then, I can either go back on c6 or go knight b5. That is a very difficult position to handle. If this knight d6, I can show you. And okay, and we're just getting the queen. So that is a very difficult position to handle. And this is already losing the exchange again. So you have to go queen b7, but then I can, at the very least, go king e2, defending, threatening everything at the same time. And if needed, I can also take like that. So it's pretty good position. Very disorienting one, but definitely interesting position. You can of course look at it on your side. So queen c8 was played, and now knight b5. The threat would be to eventually take on a7 or take on e7. You take back, and I take. Okay, let's just show you. This takes, boom! I sacrifice my queen, and I go knight c7. So a lot of tactics and ideas everywhere. So it's just a typical type of move which is giving you some chances to get something. A7, a6, but now the problem is that there is knight a7 attacking the queen, and once the queen moves somewhere, I can take on a8. Very brutal and nice game played by Gukesh, sacrificing the queen, and now we are just getting the queen there, 95, 96, and now even though black will probably at some point get one of the knights, it's not a problem. We are still up in exchange, and now it's just a question of pure technique. If you want to know how to build up a plan, you can still go check out my most recent upload about how to create plans, and handle winning positions. And now at some point, just bring all the pieces into the action. The game is just an easy win. Taking other pawns, grabbing everything. At some point, a checkmate will arrive, and we will actually see that very, very soon. A very brutal game, and basically you see that in the London system, if you have some other plans, not only the main plans, but also some new and strange type of plans, like sacrificing a pawn for some activity, or doing a fianchetto of the bishop, which usually goes on f4, then you will always have good positions. Thank you very much. If you're interested in more opening books about the London system, you can, of course, check out the description. Contact me per email if you're looking for a chess coach or someone who can create your opening repertoire. See you in the future. Take care.